Welcome to another edition of Colored Conversations, a safe place to talk about everything, especially race and all that's going on in the world today. I'm your co-host, Keenan Tyler. I pastor the great coastal shores and Cedars of Lebanon churches in Chesapeake and Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I know we've been gone for quite a while, but we're back. So we have our co-host here. Go ahead, Pastor Kinlock.
Hey, everybody. Dr. Trevor Kinlock, the pastor of the Metropolitan SDA Church here in Hyattsville, Maryland. I also teach at Howard University. I'm so glad to be back. We've been dealing with so much in this world, dealing with race and class and inequality. And I think I'm excited for the conversation we're getting ready to have today.
Mm-hmm. Amen. So I'm going to open up with a word of prayer, and we'll turn it back over to you. That's cool?
Yep.
All right, let's pray, everyone. Father God, we come to you in the mighty name of Jesus. Lord, please forgive us for our sins. We just pray that you would just bless and anoint our conversation today. I pray that it will set a lot of people free. So, Lord God, be with us and our special guests in Jesus' name. Amen. So,
Amen.
Pastor, can you introduce our
guest? Yeah, absolutely. Today, our conversation is the crisis of Black men in higher education. And we've got some great guests today who are coming to us to have this conversation. We have Dr. Calvin Hadley. Dr. Hadley is the Senior Advisor for Strategic Initiatives in the Office of the President at Howard University. He's been in that post for a number of years, also a Howard alum. He comes from the great state of California, the great city of LA. So I got a soul brother here on the line with us today. So we want to welcome you, Dr. Hadley.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. And then we have one of our sharp minds that I call it Black excellence every time I see it in the classroom at Howard University. We have Brother Wayne Scully. Wayne Scully is a now senior sociology major at Howard University, looking to graduate next year. 2024 is his year. And so, Wayne, it's also good to have you here in this conversation.
Thank you. Glad to be here too.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to jump right in. And I think I want to start with you, Dr. Hadley. I just want to ask, as we talk about this crisis of Black men in higher education, in your perspective, your view, why would you call this a crisis?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks again for having me. I think it's a very important conversation, and to share the screen with and the podcast with three intelligent brothers is a pleasure. I think before we talk about the crises of Black males in higher education, we have to zoom out a bit and better understand that there's a crisis for Black males in American education. And I think one layer beyond that, you realize there's a crisis of Black males in America.
Right.
I think the American education system, as W.B. Du Bois discussed, was created to help not make our society more equal, but to really reproduce the castes that were originated at the beginning of our nation. And so W.B. Du Bois speaks about caste psychologies and the reproduction of those caste psychologies in the American education system. So we realized that long before Black males get to higher education, they have to make it through a major gauntlet. A gauntlet, in fact, Killer Mike, a rapper who has an album that came out last week, had a song. And the beginning, the song is called Run. And at the beginning of that song, Dave Chappelle comes on and he has a skit. And he says, being a Black man, he doesn't use the word Black man, but he says, being a Black man in America is like a brother storming Normandy. And he said, you're storming Normandy, and there's no rhyme or reason to why the people around you are dropping, but you're still on your feet, and it's your task to run. You got to keep going forward. You got to run. And the reality is that you're just as heroic as those people storming Normandy. And so when you think about the Black male that's even thinking about higher education, he's already made it through amazing gauntlet. He's made it through the gauntlet of all of the things in his neighborhood, right? He's made it through the gauntlet of all of the things in the K through 12 American education system before even being considered for higher education. I think one important statistic to share is that only 59% of African American males actually graduate from high school. Wow. Right? That's a statistic that nobody's talking about. Right? Wow. 59% of the Black males that go into high school graduate high school. Yeah. So long before a crisis in higher education, there's a crisis in K through 12. But I think to your question, I want to make sure that I'm fair to your question. By the time the select few of us make it through this amazing gauntlet and make it to the ability, make it to the stage of higher education, there's another gauntlet to make, right? There's another gauntlet to transcend. And I think when you think about the African American male, so many of us early on are not instilled with self-efficacy, belief and ability to do, or belief and ability to be successful in the educational space.
Yeah.
So we were talking earlier before we came on camera about our upbringing and our neighborhoods, right? We have both coasts. We have California, we have New York. We have neighborhoods, we have cities, we have environments where Black people are. And in these spaces, at least my personal experience was that growing up, Black males were directed in a couple of very narrow paths. Growing up in California at that time, Black males were directed into athletics. We all knew that you could succeed by being an athletic superstar. So brothers wanted to play football and basketball or entertainment, right? I grew up in the 90s where rapping was big, and we knew that Jay-Z said a six-figure brother. You knew you could be a six-figure brother from the rap game. But there were very few avenues telling you that you could be successful in education. And so I think all of those things come into play when we think about the crises of the Black male actually making it through the higher education system. Before he makes it through that, he must first transcend the American education system. And we haven't even touched on the judicial system, the penal system, and all of these other things that are not necessarily set up to instill him again. And you hear me throughout our conversation talk about belief and talk about self-efficacy, which our research is undergirded. But it's not necessarily a setup to provide the young Black male with that sense of self-efficacy and belief that you can be successful in college. And so you know what happens? You don't aim your plane towards success in college. Right. And as a result of that, not many of us pursue that. And many of us, when we do pursue it again, is that belief. So many of us, when we get into that classroom and we're not at HBCUs like Howard, like Wayne will tell you, we're at PWIs like NYU that I attended for graduate school. And I was literally, I think there were 2 Black males out of a class of 350. It was the largest class at that time. And there were 2 total Black males. Right. When you get in that class and you're failing now, and you fail, or you have one issue that you're not succeeding in, what stories do you start to tell yourself? And for me, my research has told me is that those stories make all the difference. Of course. Black male is not in college right now because the Black male has not been instilled with a sense of belief that he can be successful in college. Now, I'm interested in hearing Wayne's story because those of us that do make it through college, we have an ability, I think, and again, that belief, I think it will then help us transcend many levels beyond that, because that sense of belief is going to be, for me, I'll say personally again, it's operated as both a shield from the negative images around me about what a Black male should be, and it also operated as a weapon that allowed me to maneuver through this world in a way that I didn't have to ask permission. And it gave me a sense of understanding. That's long-winded.
No, that's good. That's solid. There's a whole lot there, but I appreciate where you started, which was kind of unpacking the bigger picture. So many times we get kind of caught up on this individual analysis where we're just looking at individual action, not understand that there's these broader systemic structural forces that are kind of determining what is happening on the individual levels with the people that we know. So I appreciate you talking about kind of the bigger picture, what's happening. And that bigger picture shows exactly what you just said. The numbers came out again. It's 26.5% of Black men are graduating with a college degree in America compared to 44.3% white. So you just talk again, these huge gaps, these huge divides, and there are reasons for it, and they're absolutely historical. But that history, has extended all the way into the present day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll make one quick statement. You said 26% of Black men are graduating with a college degree. 26. I'm in Washington, D.C. right now. I read a statistic last week that said that 20+% of the Black men born in Ward 7 or 8, and those not familiar with D.C., the predominantly Black, economically depressed neighborhood, at any given time, 20+% of the Black males are in prison at any given time. Talking about only 26% get college degrees, and in Ward 7 or 8 at any given time, not just today, not tomorrow, at any given time, upwards of 20% of the Black males are in prison. And so we're dealing with a crisis across the board. It doesn't seem to be getting enough attention at this point.
Absolutely. I call it crisis. I guess I understand now why the broader country, why this is not a part of their agenda. But my concern is, why is it not a part of ours? And this is something that we've got to do something about.
Sure, indeed. I just wanted to follow up. So Dr. Hadley, you've done research on black men in higher education. Can you tell us about your research specifically, and what did you find? What surprised to you? What jumped out? Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. And so Dr. Kinlock knows I'm fresh off a PhD, right? I got my PhD in May of this year. I think this is the first public event where I'm Dr. Hadley. So I'm still just kind of swimming in, people calling me Dr. Hadley at the moment. But my entire educational world has been really around better understanding Black people in educational spaces, but really the Black male. That's really my focus. And so for my academic research, I really got a chance to focus in on this concept of belief. And again, for me, I'll make it personal and then go into why this actually was the basis of my research at Howard. I'm originally, again, from Los Angeles, California, LA County, born in Inglewood, raised in Carson. And I came from a very unique family environment. Came from a father, an intact, very strong family, a father that dropped out of school in the 9th grade, and a mother that went on to college. But I was pushed education like both of my parents had PhDs, right? As soon as I was born, I knew that education would be my passport, and they made it very clear to me. And from a very early age, I set my plane, I set my arrow towards success in education. And that then impacted everything about my life after that. When I got to the space of better understanding what I wanted to research at a doctoral level, I wanted to better understand why I ended up being this guy, right? I'm 37 years old. I emerged from the same neighborhood as many of my cousins, brothers, and friends, but ended up with a very different life outcome, right? And I never thought it was because of my intellect, right? I always thought if you lined me up with 10 of my brothers, 10 of my boys, I'll probably end up maybe top 4, but I don't know that I'm top 1. I'm the only with a PhD, and very few of us have college degrees. And so what was so different about Calvin? And so when I got to the space of now being able to research whatever you want to research in this big world, I said, I want to better understand that. And for me, what I was able to identify internally was this sense of belief. And I stumbled into this concept of self-efficacy, this psychological concept. I did a degree in sociology, but I stumbled into a psychological concept by a gentleman named Albert Bandura called self-efficacy. And it's this thing that really just opened up my eyes into how Calvin Hadley, in a lot of ways, became Calvin Hadley. The concept of self-efficacy says that self-efficacy first is belief and ability to do. And there's specified self-efficacy in general. And Albert Bandura said that specified belief and ability to do this task, belief and ability to be successful in this space. Self-efficacy is most predictive when specified. However, there's also a general self-efficacy, a larger belief in self and ability to be successful generally. For me, I identified early on that I thought that I could be successful in all of these spaces. Well, guess what? It was that 9th grade educated daddy that was yelling at me from birth that you can be. You can be. And not only can you be, once he figured out that I believed that I could be, it was now you will be. You must be. You have to be. And so I believed it. In every classroom, in every test, I sat down and I believed it. And guess what Bandura said? Your belief and your ability to do impacts everything. It impacts how you dream. It impacts what you do when you fail. It impacts how you understand failure. And the thing about it is, for us, when I thought about the Black male, so many of us have been instilled with self-efficacy in different spaces, but not in education. So what I wanted to better understand was, how does belief, or what role does belief play in the role of academic and professional success for the Black male? And I ended up looking at it on 2 ends of the spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, I analyzed the belief gap. The belief gap is on the K through 12 level, and really beyond that, it's the gap in between what the professor, teacher, advisor, counselor believes the student can achieve and what the student can actually achieve. That's the belief gap. That belief gap, and you guys can already, everybody in the audience already knows this, that belief gap is largest for Black males, right? The belief gap shows that Black males are suspended 3 times higher than anybody else, any other population. That belief gap shows that Black males are woefully underrepresented in AP and at IB courses in high school. that belief gap presents itself in showing that only 59% of Black males actually graduate from high school. And so when you step back and you see those statistics, you say, well, is the Black male more aggressive? Is that why he's being suspended more? Is the Black male dumber? Is that why he's only graduating at a 59%? And you zoom out of that, and we realize that after the 1930s, we threw away the eugenics idea, right? Eugenics was this concept that Blacks were inherently dumber than others. We threw that away in the 1930s or 40s. So we know when we're looking at these statistics, it's more to it than just simple aptitude or ability. So what's behind it? And so for me, I realized that on the front end, that belief gap is astronomical for the Black male. And here's one thing that my research showed me that I did not go into it knowing. There is a significant difference in the way white supremacy shows up for the Black male in the American education system as compared to the Black female in the American education system. The Black female, as we talk about those statistics, the Black male graduates at 59%. I'm sorry that I don't have the exact number. I'll make sure I get that to Dr. Kinlock afterwards so that we can present that to the group. But the Black female graduates at a much higher percentage, comparable to the white male. The Black female is graduating college at a percentage much higher than the Black male, comparable again to the white male. And so when you look at an American education system, K through 12 and higher education, the statistics show that there's a very different experience for the male and the female. And so in the middle of my research, I didn't go into it knowing that I would specify the male, but the data spoke to me immediately and said there's a difference and we need to better understand that. So on one end, I understood the belief gap. And then on the other end, I really wanted to understand the power of self-efficacy and the power of belief. Is there an ability for the individual to overpower that belief gap? Is there an ability for the individual to move beyond these systematic barriers that exist in these spaces to be successful on the back end?
Well said, well said. And I mean, thank you for really pulling out that core concept of self-efficacy, because it really is everything. But the question is, for individuals where self-efficacy is nurtured, the outcomes end up being better. And so the question is, who is telling Black men that they're able, that they can do it? When we look, of course, in the educational system, again, we know who's in the classroom makes a difference, and the data bears this out. And when 80% of the educators in the classroom, are white teachers, and then, you look at some of the other data that talks about the bias, the conscious bias and unconscious bias, and that impact on Black men. The research tells us that as early as kindergarten, the strain between teachers and Black 5-year-olds is evident from kindergarten. So very early, there's this antagonism where Black men are being seen as belligerent, incapable, they're being labeled, etc. So I think the good thing for you is you were in an environment where that efficacy was nurtured. Unfortunately, that's not happening everywhere.
It was nurtured at home, but I think that's the beautiful complexity of growing up Black and male in America. Remember, I told you I was born in Inglewood and Carson. I was apprehended or stopped and frisked by the police 19 times.
Come on.
And I was the square. I was a schoolboy. I was the guy getting straight A's on Saturday. But when I was seen in the street with this, and again, I didn't have this beard, I didn't have this lock, I had a strap, I had, but the reality is when they saw me, they didn't see somebody that had the potential that I had. They saw an N-word, and I was consistently treated like that N-word. That's why I say it's so important to better understand what role does your individual belief play in that? Because again, I encountered teachers that told me I couldn't, but my daddy would then come into the classroom and get and I didn't have to hear about that, because after a while, my daddy said, you can have the rest of them, you can't have him. So after a while, the teachers knew they had to move out of my way. If I got an A, you better make sure that Calvin has an A. So there was this very, very complex dance where there were so many people. I had a buddy, and I just saw him recently. I won't say his name. Same high school. We grew up in the 90s. He used to sag his pants. He used to sag beyond, like right by the knees. He would go to school where he would have his pants by his knees, and the teachers would just have at him. And as a result, in one of our classes in English, I remember the teacher specifying, oh, you're just dumb. You're just this. You're just that. And I remember standing up for him. You can't do that. And I got in this big trouble. It ended up becoming this defining moment in my young life. But the reality is that she never treated me that way. And so we ended up in different spaces, I think, because of all of those moments in between. His belief was at the floor by the time he finished dealing with Miss Maruna. He didn't have a daddy that could come in
and there it is. There it is.
So you have the class, you have the home environment, but there's also this very complex world that you have to traverse that sometimes doesn't make it just as simple as having Black teachers, having a Black father, having a good family.
Right.
Because sometimes that world out there provides you with different messages, and sometimes it's a battle of messages. Which one is going to win out?
That's right. A big part of it, I'm glad you told that daddy story, because the key ingredient is that parent factor. And so parents that are telling your Black boys that they are capable, that they can do it, and giving that to them consistently, that's the medicine that you're giving them. That's what kind of steals them from anybody that tells them that they can't. You know, that helps them to say, no, I don't believe you because my daddy said that I can. I want to bring Wayne into this. Wayne, it's so good to have you, and we want to hear from you now. Talk to us just kind of about your background and just you coming up. Again, you're about to graduate, you know, from the Howard University. Talk to me about some of your friends growing up. Do you have Black male friends that didn't or couldn't go to college? And why do you think that was? And what do you think the difference was perhaps with their experience and outcome versus yours?
Okay. So I'll start with my upbringing and I'll get into that.
Yeah.
So, growing up, I grew up in Brooklyn, like Ocean Hill, like, you know, it's crazy over here, but, you know, it's cool though. I grew up in Ocean Hill. I went to private school for majority of my life, but I went to like majority Black institutions that were private. Like, I went to a school called St. Mark's. It's like in Crown Heights. It's like majority Black staff. A lot of them are from like the West Indies, like my family. And just from a young age, like I knew like a lot of this was like it was kind of like a given, like, you know, like my mom would tell me like it was never a conversation of if I'm gonna graduate high school, if I'm gonna do this, if I'm gonna do that. Like it was like, this is what you're going to do, like, you know. And my mom saw potential in me from like a young age. Like I was just a high performer, and like she always used to focus on like the details, like not perfectionism in the sense where it'll cripple you, but perfectionism in the sense that that's what we're chasing. We're chasing this idea of focusing and what is it called? Honing in on the details, especially when it comes to academia. So that was pretty much my life growing up. Like I had to perform, like, and I used to come home like one time I came home with an 89 in Spanish. Like my mom got so upset with me, it was crazy. So that was like pretty much like my entire like academic life. Like my mom was really like on my case, but it was never like I don't believe in you. It was like, I believe in you so much.
That's right.
I'm going to harp on you when you don't perform academically. So that was like my life. And in terms of like you know, going to college, even though I was in private school, like I was in majority like Black classrooms, and I didn't really see a lot of white teachers until I got into high school.
Okay.
But I had a lot of Black male friends, and then like some of them didn't go to school. I think because I would say just like the inextricable link between like manhood and like what is it called, like pursuing like economic goals, like this idea that you have to gain capital, like that's what matters. It's not about your academic performance. It's not about details. It's about if you make money or not.
That's it.
I think a lot of people crip under that pressure. And me, I never had to. It wasn't really. My mom was more so like, focus on this, and whatever you need financially, I'll provide for you. This is what you need to focus on at this moment. So prioritizing the future over like what's going on right now. So that was that. So I think that's it. And also like, there's like this, I don't know how to describe it. I would say like this racially pervasive idea that there's a direct correlation or association between like professionality and whiteness. So like, because you're pursuing higher academia, that like it correlates with like you being you're too smart, you're too white, whatever the case may be. Like that's like a covertly a covert enemy within like academic space, you know. And you know, for me, I never really associated whiteness with professionality because my mom was a professional. So like seen her doing her work. I see my dad, he's a CPA. So it's like, because I had that upbringing, like I never really associated those things. But my cousin, he's graduating high school now, but I thought he was going to pursue academia as well. I thought he was going to go to college, but he told me, he's like, I'm not special like you. And I'm like, I'm not special. Like, I'm just a regular person. Like, you can do this, and me growing up seeing him, he's like my little brother, I thought he was just smart as me. Yeah, I never really viewed myself as a special person.
Right.
Goes to grow up hearing it that I'm a special person. So, like that's, I think those are two like reigning factors as to why like, I think a lot of my Black friends didn't go to college who were male. Like, I think that's pretty much
powerful. Wayne, well said. And I mean, everything that you say, there's research that bears out, your experience. And we've got some commonalities here, professional parents, or, you're coming from a particular class. But then secondly, your educators, that were around, your early educators were people that looked like you, and kind of normalized your ability to fit in the space, that you were. And then, of course, as Calvin identified, self-efficacy, you believe that you could, and you had family that told you that you could, and not only that you could, but that you better. I remember when I was the same way. I pulled in certain grades. If I pulled in something that was not to mom's standard, she was in me. She was definitely in me. Calvin, you were going to say something, and then Keenan, I got a question for you.
Man, I first of all, I'm so impressed by Wayne. And to your point, everything that Wayne is saying is supported by research, right? When he talks about the pursuit of capital, and I appreciate the way he broke that down. The pursuit of capital and the proximity to whiteness, both of those are vestiges of the caste psychologies, right? It's the caste psychology. I got to get out and get it, right? I got to get out and get it. I know how to get it. This is my lane to get in, and that's how I'm going to get it. This whole world over here is completely blind to me. And not only that, if you pursue that world over there, you're not us no more, bro. Like, you put them over there. That is all, I think, inherent with. In order for white supremacy to exist, we must adopt that mentality. It does not exist if the world emerges from their circumstances like Wayne. And again, Wayne spoke about something very, very important. We are both extremely privileged. And I don't know Wayne's circumstances in any way except that mom that he has. When Wayne talks about his mom, I hear the parents that I had that said, not only am I going to protect you from the world, I might not have but $5, but you never have to worry about finances. You don't have, my friends used to have to wake up in the morning and go to work early in the morning. My mom and dad said, you get up and put that energy into school. The same thing. When I brought home good grades, they said, here go $100. We didn't have any money, but I had $100 to go buy some shoes because I brought home straight A's. They figured out how to do it. And so when Wayne talks about that, that is instilling that belief. And to Wayne's point, it wasn't aspirational. It wasn't, oh, let me sit in the class and figure out if I can do a good job. It was, no, my expectation is that I'm going to be great. And to be clear, I know that I can do it. And how do I know that I can do it? Because I've done it over and over again. And now I know that it's expected of me. And I think that is foundational. Without that, I'm not who I am. And it sounds like Wayne is not who he is either.
That's right. That's right. Powerful stuff. Keenan and Wayne, you guys are coming from that similar experience there in Brooklyn. And of course, Calvin and myself coming out of LA. But Keenan, talk to us just a bit about, I guess, how your life kind of factored into these realities. Obviously, you've had the ability to go on to college, et cetera, but just your path. And then I'm looking at the next generation because I know your son is now on a path as well. So can you talk to us just a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So, it seems like we all got something in common. It comes down to the home, what happened in the home. And so my mom, single mom, was very foundational. She instilled in me, like, you could do anything you put your mind to. Like, not, that's not like casual saying, like, she really made me believe anything you put your mind to do, you could accomplish. From this time I was, as early as I can remember. So that always just stayed with me. Any object in my way, I figure I could obliterate because I knew that self-efficacy, right? Come on, bring it on, bring on a challenge. So that's always been my thing. So I'm working on my dissertation right now and stuff like that, and I'm not gonna throw out the other stuff, but yeah, just my mom pushed me. And then as far as my son, that's the same thing. Try to just instill in him. He just graduated from high school, and just said something that Wayne said earlier. Grow up in a school, going to a school where it seemed like they pushed them, parents pushed them. That's so important. So my son life, from K through about maybe 5th grade or around there, he went to a school where small private school, the teachers pushed him.
Mm-hmm.
It made such a difference. Predominantly Black school, they pushed him. It wasn't outside of the norm for kids of color to be of excellence. Right. It was expected. And that made such a difference with that foundation. Then he went to a different school, was not too many kids of color there. So the expectations were a little different, and his grades started to slide. And we wondered, we was like, what's going on? What happened to him? What's going on? But he wasn't being pushed, so we had to push him at home. But then when he went to high school, a predominantly Black school, again, the grades just went up.
Yeah. So
what was the difference? He was in an environment where they just, they push that, and that's so important. And just hearing Wayne talk, that's like that. Yeah. So that's it right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then now at home, and then hearing Wayne and Dr. Hadley talk about, you had a dad in your life. I grew up in a single parent household, didn't have that. And I know, Trevor, I know you asking the questions, but you didn't have that in your life.
Thanks. Single parent mom, Jamaican mom.
So I mean, I'm from America. My mom, not Jamaican, but my mom, Black America. She pushed me.
Absolutely.
Pushed me like crazy. I know that's a misnomer right there, that Black Americans don't push us, but we push it too now. But I want to know, in your experience, Trevor, I want to throw it on you. What was it about you? Because where you at right now. And then I'm gonna come to Wayne. Wayne, I'm gonna come back to you, okay?
Yep. I would say for me, and my dissertation was about this, so forgive me if I kind of talk on it all day. It was really all of my environment, all the network of support that was around me, starting, of course, in the home. There was a Black mother that was there with 3 kids, that she was determined that we were all going to succeed because she knew that we were bright, we were competent, we were capable, and she raised us or reared us with that belief or with that expectation where we could succeed. And if there was any time that we slipped in school, she was on it. She was on us. Yeah, but she still worked 2 jobs. Yeah, she was working from, 7 in the morning till 11, 12 o'clock at night, but she still found a way to make sure to stay engaged in our academics, make sure that we were doing our homework, make sure we were getting to and from our school and being involved in the activities, getting our projects done, etc. So that's why I say the key ingredient is always been the parent. And then, when we kind of zoom out from the home, it's these other systems of support that we have in our community in different ways. For us, it was the faith-based space. So within the church, education is kind of a core ethic that's pushed in many Black churches, and that's kind of historical as well. And that is, within the Preacher, I heard you go there. That's within the Black American culture. That's within the Caribbean culture, and of course in the within the African culture as well. Education was really pushed in our church. It was rewarded. It was affirmed. All of that. So I've got this messaging in my home. I've got this messaging kind of in my church space. And then I've got, my family, my community as well that are giving it to me. Now, I did go to a number of schools with predominantly white teachers and then Black and brown students. This was something that I remember so very keenly. I did not feel like most of my teachers, as I went through school, kind of like boosted me and like told me what I could do the way that I do now, to my students in the class, except for one. There's one teacher alone that I can remember, and he was a Black man. Remember to this day, Mr. Turner, 7th grade. I remember him telling me, he said, "Trevor, you can do anything that you want to do in life." And now he could have just been blowing steam at me, could have just been saying anything, but I actually believe that. I believe that. And I was like, Mr. Turner said I can do anything. And so I wanted to kind of make him, proud. So I lived up to that. That's the key. That's what we need. That's what our kids need to hear. They need to hear that they can do anything. And then they push themselves up or they stretch to meet that expectation. So that's me, Preacher. That's kind of how, my story kind of took the direction that it did.
Excellent. Excellent. So
Yeah.
Wayne, I got a question for you, young man. Got a question for you. Brooklyn in the house. Brooklyn in the house.
Right.
And from Ocean Hill. God bless you, man. God bless you for real. God bless you. All right, so I got a question. It says, what has been your experience at Howard, and have you felt you could succeed there? Why or why not? And how do you feel about the fact that there are more black women at HU than black men? And does it even make I'd actually like 4 questions on at the same time. Does it even make a difference in the classroom? So you got all that. What has been your experience at HU?
Okay. Yeah, my experience at HU has been really good so far. No complaints at all. Actually, I'm actually really grateful for the experience that I've had. Had great professors. Really reared me in the right direction. Helped me expand myself academically and also creatively as well through my creative approach to academia too. So yeah, like definitely, my experience has been really well. And the second question was, do I have I felt that I could succeed there?
Yeah, have you felt you could succeed there?
Yeah, definitely
Why not?
100%. Yeah, definitely 100%. I could succeed there, and that's primarily because of the same reason that we were talking about before. Like my efficacy is like on a whole level, like, and like it's just like even like graduating college, that's like a given too. Like I just knew like it wasn't about more. It wasn't really about if I'm gonna succeed, but more so like how am I gonna do it? I need to get these A's. I need to get my 4.0. Like I need to learn, more importantly too. Like I need to creatively navigate this space, and also just like expand my rhetorical palette as well. Just honing my skills. Like I feel like that's primarily what I've been trying to do. And just become better. Like if I become better, then it's fine. But like I feel like I felt from day one that I could succeed. Like I think primarily when I was going to college, I wasn't really worried about if I was gonna succeed academically, but just like I need how am I gonna like, because this is like I've been sheltered like a lot of my life. So it's like you know what I'm saying? Like even though like I had friends and I was always like I was able to go outside and stuff, but it's like I was more so sheltered. So it's like not like being like away from home and stuff like that. That's really what I was concerned with. But academically though, I knew I was gonna be fine. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Let me
let me
go
ask
ahead,
this,
preacher.
Trevor. Well, hold on, Trevor. Let me ask this. Just
Sure.
with the amount, the ratio to women to males in the classroom, we know that black women now the most educated demographic in America right now. But just how do you feel about that there are just more women than men? It's just so few of you all.
Yeah, for sure. And that fact is kind of like it's replicate it's replicated in the classroom as well. It's like I've been at Howard for a while now, and majority of my classes have been like majority black women, which is fine.
Absolutely.
Like I definitely like hearing like the black female perspective because I went to my high school. I went to an all boys high school, and like before that, I was in co-ed. So like now I'm kind of like getting back to that. So it's cool. Like it's definitely cool hearing the black feminine perspective. The only thing that I say is that sometimes it's like it's hard to gauge the black male perspective too. Because like we're in like for example, like we're in classrooms talking about patriarchy, right? And we're attacking these systems, but how can we talk about patriarchy and without and like we're looking at it as like holistically. We're looking at patriarchy holistically, but the black male fits in a completely different space because there is no agency. And if there is agency, it's completely different. It's diluted in comparison to the white male. So it's like, when we talk about patriarchy, for example, it's like we gotta talk about it from the perspective of race as well, because it's inextricably intertwined with that. So like that's one thing that I say. But I definitely like hearing and it's just like what's going on at Howard is reflective of the social reality that exists now. It's a social fact. Like black women are severely outpacing black men in higher academia, in education, period. I understand this is how it is right now, and I don't mind that women are outpacing men academically. It's just that the severity, the level, it's almost disheartening, so to speak. You would like to see more Black males in higher academia, because we have a unique perspective as well to relay. So yeah, that's what I say about that.
Yeah. Well said. Well said, man. Sound like you had a good social theory teacher.
Seriously.
I did.
Hey, I had the privilege of being able to instruct Wayne in social theory. Exactly what you hear is what he brought forth in the classroom. But just solid. So Calvin, I got to ask this question, man. Is there any hope? We see the numbers are trending in the wrong direction. And even before I get to that, I'll kind of ask everybody, and then Calvin, I'm gonna come back and answer this question. We're talking about higher education. Do Black men have to go to college? Is this just an elitist conversation that is being had amongst a bunch of educated Black males? Is it necessary for brothers to go to college, or can they go into other pathways? This is a conversation that we're also having in our community. It's like, look, I don't need to go to college. I can do this or I can do that.
Man, so much to unpack. First of all, man, Wayne is an all-star, man. I'm so proud of Howard University. I'm so proud of that brother, man. Like literally all the stuff that I studied is Wayne is, this is all, it goes from the paper to, Wayne is a great embodiment of it. But a couple of things, man, I just wanted to say, and I could spend forever, like you, Trevor. I have to give the disclaimer that I'm extremely passionate about, that I just did my dissertation. So I'm going to skip through so much of what I would want to say. But one point I did want to make, I think that came out in my research that I don't think is being talked about globally, that Wayne touched on, and that is the unique manner that the Black male is being impacted by white supremacy, right? And I want to make it clear, and I saw Wayne tiptoeing around this. The Black woman, the Black female, is the most disrespected, denigrated, and disenfranchised entity in the entire United States of America. I think we need to say that when we have these conversations. Now that we've said that, the Black male is impacted very, very differently. And if we don't pay great attention to that unique nature, we're going to be in trouble. And so now I'll use that in my great PhD days to triangulate to your last question, right? Does the Black male need to go to college? The answer is right now, with the society stratified the way it is right now, we know that a person, especially a Black male with a college degree, has a far, far, far better chance of being successful in a number of ways in society if he has that degree. Now, the reality is it shouldn't be that way. It should not be that way, especially when we've talked about all of the systematic and institutional barriers that exist in pursuing a higher education. I wish, and I'm hopeful that we can create, and I believe that society is advancing rapidly, especially with the advent of ChatGPT, AI, and all of these other things. I think tomorrow's society is going to be set up a little bit differently. But as it's situated today, what my research showed me, and this is something I'm excited to share, we all know about the racial wealth gap. The racial wealth gap undergirds every issue in the United States. If there's an issue, it starts with the racial wealth gap as its current manifestation. The racial income gap, when you specify the racial income portion of that racial wealth gap, my research shows that it is 100% based on the male, 100% based on the Black male and not the Black female. That income gap is 100% based on the Black male. And so let me now bring that back. We cannot close the racial wealth gap without specifying the Black male. My research made it very clear. So that was when I dropped the mic at the end of the dissertation. You cannot close the racial wealth gap without a direct focus on the Black male. And in its contemporary status, the Black male, the best opportunity you have, and this is what Wayne's mom was saying, this is what Trevor's mom was saying, this is what my parents were, this is what all of our parents were saying, is that if you pursue education, it's not that education is better than playing basketball. It's not that being a PhD is better than being a entertainer or a construction worker or anybody else. But what we know is that you have the best opportunity. This is what my dad said. If you pursue playing basketball, there's only a few people going to make it through that pinhole. It's only a few people. But if you expand your umbrella to pursue education, the world is your oyster. So many of us are pursuing these small pinholes and we're being stuck in the bottleneck. And when you're stuck in that bottleneck, society knows what to do with you on the other side of that. Oh, you don't have a degree? Oh, you don't have these things? Oh, let me help you better understand where you fit into our society. With that college degree right now, It's one of the fighting chances you have. But I'll tell you, I'm uncomfortable by answering that with yes, the black male needs to go to college, because I'll tell you this: I have 2 black boys, and I don't think that Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Jay-Z and Beyonce, Nick Cannon, any other billionaire, I don't think that those billionaires look at their children and say, you got to go to college. I don't think that they think that, right? I think that they say, you go out and figure out how you want to impact this world. You go out and figure out how you want to leave a mark on this world. And now let's figure out how you do that. If the tool that you need is a college degree, then let's do that. Let's pursue that college degree. But if there are various other tools that you require in your tool set to do that, then do that. So I'm raising my boys on the billionaire, on the king of the world, on the let's take over the planet strategy. You understand how you want to impact your world. You understand how you want to impart your space on this world. And then let's figure out, and it's a big part of my responsibility as well to make sure that you can do that. If a college degree is a part of it, then I'm all for it.
Cool.
It's a whole big world out there.
Good. Wayne, same question.
Repeat the question again.
You know, we're in this discussion about the crisis of black men in higher education. Do black men have to go to college? You know, or are there other pathways, or is this an elitist discussion? You know, or you know, how would you answer that?
I'd answer it similarly. I'd say, like, for me, like, I think that, like, I'm trying to figure out a way to, because, like, for example, like, I have creative pursuits too. Like, I'm into clothing, and I really like making clothing. It's like really like my favorite thing to do, actually. But it's like it's inspired by by Pan-African philosophy. So it's like I take that and I kind of like bridge it with clothing. So it's like I'm bridging academia and clothing. But it's like not everybody has that same desire to kind of like see where they can take their whatever pursuits, creative pursuits, whatever pursuits they have that aren't inherently academic, and kind of like bridge those two worlds. So I'd say, like, I don't think necessarily that black men have to go to college, especially because there are other opportunities like in trades and things like that. Like I know people who like are doing trades like HVAC and things like that, and like they're making a lot of money, and they've made opportunities for themselves. You know, they've crafted opportunities for themselves, so that's great. But I think that a better answer would be a better answer for me, I would say, is like they should strongly consider it. You know, the consideration should be on academia, should be on education, not only because you know, making a better opportunity for yourself, but also we need more black males in these spaces having these conversations, you know, about higher academia in these higher academic spaces, because then now we have conversations about patriarchy, and then like it's just looked at as like a one strike thing. If, for example, or like we look at racism, but we don't look at it underneath the mold of white male antagonism towards black males, or the white systems, the system of global white supremacy and its a direct attack onto black males. So it's like, you know, you know, if I say, you know, black males shouldn't have to go to college, then like, do we get Du Bois? Like, you know, like that's what I would, that's the question I would ask.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that, you know, and another thing I say is that, you know, not that black males should have to go to college, but black males are capable of doing it. You know? Inherently capable of doing it, holistically capable of doing it. So that's what I would say about that.
We'll answer. Keenan, what would you say?
Yeah, of course, it's nuanced, right? You know, it's very, very nuanced. You know, in therapy, some years ago when I started doing therapy, and I was counseling this one kid, he's probably like 7 years old. I'm like, hey, what you want to be when you grow up? A common question. And the kid told me, and this was a couple of years ago, and I was just ignorant to this. He said, oh, I want to be a YouTuber when I grow up. And I said, that's not a real job. Come on now, what do you want to do when you grow up? And he's 7. He's like, I want to be a YouTuber. I'm like, come on, kid, let's be for real. And another therapist who was probably 10 years younger than me, you know, she asked him the same question. She said, hey, kid, what do you want to be? He said, a YouTuber. She said, oh, that's great. Yeah, you can make. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? and she had to educate me on that. And then not only that, I started to look at a lot of things like there's other ways, there's other pathways. So I would love to see all of our men, go to college, but I know that there are other avenues, as Dr. Helly said, to take over the world.
Yeah.
Other avenues. Like my son, he wants to own as many properties as possible. So at first he didn't want to go to college, but then he realized he has to get some capital to do that. So now he's going to go to college, but he wants to take over the world. That's his whole mentality. He wants to buy every property that there is, So yeah, that's how I would answer that. It's not, I guess, not binary.
Yeah. Good. Oh man, I think all three of you have said it. I can't really add to it. I think my point would be that we've got to make sure whatever, as Calvin said, our Black men want to do, that they've got the support. They got the support to do it, to move in that direction. I think that's key. That's what Barack's kids are getting. That's what Jay-Z's kids are getting. That's what Donald Trump's kids have got. They had resources behind them so that their kids can pursue whatever it is they're feeling called to do. And I think that's a part of what we will have to build out for our kids and for the next generation. If we want Black men to not only go to college, but to, be entrepreneurs or whatever it is, to go in those different areas.
Well, okay,
I was
go
going to piggyback off of that, just to bring it full circle for me. It all is based in that belief, right? Wayne told a beautiful story about his mother and how she instilled belief. And we didn't spend a lot of time on it, but he answered that question just like I would have. What do you mean, will I be successful in college? What do you mean, will I be successful in this job? What do you mean, will I be successful in pursuing a PhD? I'm Calvin Hadley. My mom and them, they already told me who I am and what I can do. So if I put in the work, whatever the task is, I'm getting to the top. And so when Wayne has that, there's nobody that can take that from us. Whatever young brother needs to have on this planet, that. But not only in basketball, not only in entertainment, because a lot of us got that. My homies can talk that same jazz. I'm going to the league. And again, I want them to be able to pursue that. But I think what I would add to it is belief and ability to dream. Dream beyond, as W.E.B. Du Bois would say, the caste psychology that was provided to us. Bust the walls open to that caste psychology and dream like Barron Trump. You know what I mean? Dream like Blue Ivy, right? That's the whatever they have the ability to dream of, you should be able to dream of it, and we should be able to help you achieve that. Move the walls on your dreams.
All right, we move in a more hopeful direction. I want to ask you, Calvin. Let's go here now. We ready? Solutions. What are some of the solutions to the crisis that we identified?
Yeah, man. So a part of it, and again, as you'll hear me, and I think I'm going to dedicate my entire life to this, right? I'm fresh off a PhD, but it just speaks to everything that is me, and it's that belief. So how do you start to do that? You touched on it. We got to get more Black males in the classroom. So we want to start to give more Black males a sense of belief in those elementary stages. My kids at Howard University Early Learners Program, there are 5 teachers, 2 of them are Black males. That plays a major role in their understanding of what they can be, even at 3 and 5. We need to replicate that at every level. We need to have, affirmative action is getting ready to be torn down in the Supreme Court in a couple of weeks. But if I had my druthers, we'd have quotas on Black males in different positions, right? But in order to do that, you got to make sure that brothers can't be teachers to elementary students unless they have college degrees. That's one of the foundational requirements. So that means that if we're going to ask for more teachers, if we're going to ask for more Black mentors, Black male mentors, and more people to provide them with that belief on the front end, we got to help remove some of these systematic barriers to success for them. So what are the I'll give you 2 levels. I'll give you short-term interpersonal, and I'll give you large-term societal. Short-term, what can we do? We can start to encourage our brothers to be more in the classroom. So as our brothers are pursuing basketball, as they're pursuing rapping, we got to make teaching more sexy in whatever ways we can do that. I'm thinking of programs at Howard that we can do that. Morgan has a beautiful program. Bowie has a beautiful program. We got to get more brothers in the classroom. 2, we got to bring this conversation to the forefront. There cannot be a table around this country that's not talking about, that isn't having a conversation about 59% of our Black males who are going into college are 59, only 59% are graduating from high school.
Right.
That is a national crisis.
Yeah.
These are the things that everybody, not just Black people, not just educated Black men, but everybody in the country needs to talk about. And I think the last thing, and again, I say last, one of the trillions of things that in this very short time that I can talk about is that I think that we have got to better understand our power as a community. We didn't talk about anything outside of education, but the reality is when we talk about Black men, there's so much that we can talk about outside of the classroom. But if we're going to have this conversation, what we got to be able to do is create an environment where we can hold each other accountable, where we can, I think about on Howard's campus, I'm working on the creation of the Black male. What is the Howard male? I want something on Howard's campus where every Black man that passes each other like an ant, you got to greet each other. Yeah. Because what I was acculturated with, probably similar to you, Trevor, growing up in the 90s in gang culture, I was acculturated to treat Black males in two ways. One was to look down, because I was the square, and I know a whole bunch of dudes are ready to get after it in ways I wasn't. So I would look down. But there were other situations where you didn't want to get banged on, when you would look at them aggressively, because you want to make sure they know you're not the one to run up on. So what I didn't realize, and this is something very deep that we could talk about when we talk about psychology, I didn't realize it until I was on a beautiful campus at Howard University, and I would see brothers, and I would still interact with them in one of those two ways. Unless we can figure out how to love ourselves first. None of the problems in our society, you can't shoot up a park. They just shot up a park in DC. You can't shoot up a park where your family possibly is unless you hate yourself. And so a big part of this equation is that we've been taught to hate ourselves, and we have now internalized that self-hatred. We celebrate being niggas. And don't get it twisted. I grew up in rap culture. I understand how we positively utilize the language, but we celebrated what it means to be a nigga.
Right.
We internalize that that's who we are. We are not going to ever transcend this space that we're in. It's white supremacy's greatest tool today is the mind of the young Black person, because Wayne got something that the average person doesn't have, and Wayne can never be stopped. We didn't talk about what Wayne's going to be on the other end of this, but when Wayne carries that sense of self-efficacy forward, he will be successful. Our task is, when you ask what are the solutions, our solutions are to make sure that we instill. I can't put a Black daddy in every home. I can't make sure that everybody have a parent that feel the same way that our parents felt, but we can start to create societal mechanisms that create what Wayne had, what I had, what you had, what all of us had on this phone to provide us with that sense of belief. It starts in the classroom. It starts with creating families that can be healthy, where mothers and fathers can raise families, right? Where we can actually have strong families, where those young boys have men to look up to so that they can actually understand what it means to be a man at the next level. It starts in the classroom. But beyond that, what we've got to figure out, and again, I appreciate you guys' perspective on the religious spaces, because those are spaces that I'm not very familiar with.
Right.
I'm also, there's another space that we didn't talk about that I'm not afraid to talk about, which is Caribbean first generation. There are some instances in this country where this belief is being baked inherently, right? And what we've got to do is figure out how to replicate those spaces. What we're not talking about is that in almost all of these first generation Caribbean homes, you're getting what Trevor and Wayne got. You know that your responsibility is you better get these A's, and you can't come home without these A's, right? So I think and I think to the Reverend's point, we represent the Black American perspective. It also says that we have Black Americans that are doing that. Eventually, we've got to get to a space, and we've got to take it as our responsibility to say, how do we, as the privileged people, extremely privileged, now go back and pour into our community. Again, we can't put a daddy in every home. We can't change what the prison industrial complex is doing, but we can work incrementally. We can work step by step. We can lay a brick a day. We can have this conversation at a larger scale. We can now go out and get more people. Trevor went into the classroom several years ago. Well, guess what? I'm going to the classroom this year. And we can keep laying brick by brick until eventually every little boy is walking around here. Every young man is walking around here with his chest in the same way that Wayne got his. There's no stopping.
I can do it. I can do it.
There's no stopping Wayne. And I know that. And this is what my research has shown. When you have what Wayne has, let's do a podcast in 10 years. And I guarantee you that if the creator sees fit, right? If we all here and healthy, Wayne is going to be out there ripping this world up.
No doubt.
Once you have that, there's nothing that's going to stop you. The world can't beat you down enough. I got in that car. Told you guys I was in a car accident. I was on my back. I was so beat up, but I knew on the other side of that was success. I knew, just like Wayne knows that he's going to be successful in class. I knew that when I was sick, that I would be better again. And so I operated like that. I operated in that manner. I put my actions in that manner. And guess what? I'm back stronger than I ever was. And guess what? Wayne gonna be ruling the planet right with your son, who has all of those buildings. That's the belief. That's what it takes. Donald Trump was the president. Like it starts with belief. Like literally, think about it. You can do anything, kids. Like literally, Donald Trump was the president of the United States of America in real life. You can do anything. It starts with belief.
Calvin, you're preaching. You're preaching over there.
Yeah, you're preaching, brother.
It's good. It's good. But I mean, you took it exactly where I wanted it to go. So I'm just grateful the way the conversation has gone. We've talked so much about Du Bois. Of course, so many are familiar with, Du Bois's concept of the talented 10th. That if there's a 10th, Black America that's able to go and pursue their education, liberal arts education, that they've got a responsibility to go back and to give back. Now, we can challenge the whole idea of the only ones to rescue, Black America is going to be the educated. There's some elitism that is in that. But I want to hone in on just the idea of social responsibility and what is the responsibility that we have. Calvin, you just hit it. I want to hear from you, Wayne. Do you feel a sense of responsibility back to the neighborhood, back to your city, back to your people?
Yeah, I definitely feel a sense of responsibility. And to add on to what Dr. Hadley said, like, we have to start viewing ourselves as more than just like an identity crafted through like an imported people via slavery, vis-a-vis slavery. Like Black people across the world, especially members of the diaspora, we are part of a larger spiritual provocation of Africanity. We are Africanship as it's known today. Like, this is it. You know what I'm saying? I think like the more we start to view ourselves as that, then we'll inherently believe that we have an obligation to self and the self, not in terms of me as in I, but I as in everyone, all Black people. So it's like, in Rastafarianism, they have like this idea, like I and I, like, it's for everyone. Right. So like, I think like once we start to view ourselves as like part of a larger Pan-African story and not just like limited to like this idea of Americana, because Americana is a fleeting identity. It changes by the day. And also, right, it's crafted through this idea of what is it called? Faux saviorship and like and conquering. Whereas the African identity is made through spirituality. It's made through God. It's irrevocable trust with God. That's what we are. So it's like, I think once we start to view ourselves in that way, we inherently carry some sense of responsibility to each other. So, that's what I would say about that. Like, I think that if we view ourselves in that way, it would definitely change.
Yeah. Awesome.
Man, we got to have a part 2 to this one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I told you, preacher, we could talk to these brothers all day. Keenan, you got anything else for us?
Wow. It'll lead up. I got about 4 or 5 questions all in my head right now. But wow. I don't want to, because it's already, well, yeah, all right, sure. Why not? Since you asked, I just wanted to know just both from both of you, what would you say to somebody don't have the parent in the household, maybe to push them, or maybe they for instance, I'm in Virginia Beach. There's not a lot of Black teachers in Virginia Beach, and the city is trying to hire them, but the applicants they're just not there. So what would you say to that mom who has a daughter, son? What would you say? What advice? What practical steps would you give to her? To help her son out.
Yeah, I'll just start, and I'm really happy. I really want to hear from Wayne. Wayne is a budding sociologist. I think you come into the classroom, man. I know you want to go to the law school, man, but I don't know. I think until you come into the classroom.
Mhm.
But you know, I always say Calvin Hadley was built. You know, I wasn't necessarily that I was born, right? I was born a person, but this entity that exists in front of you was built. And that's because, again, remember, my daddy was ninth grade educated. He was a bus driver. I didn't come from means. My mom was a school teacher and ended up being a school administrator at the early childhood level. But I didn't come from means. I didn't come from family. I certainly never could have paid for private school. We didn't have any access. I didn't come from folks that knew how to navigate the educational system, but they were dedicated to ensuring that I understood. Because remember, when we were growing up, it was, you know, everything was you can do it. You know, there were these slogans. There used to be shirts and things about, you know, you can be all that you can be, or I don't remember what, you know, these concepts of doing whatever you want to do, but they didn't translate to the majority of us. What my parents wanted to do was make sure that they showed me that I could be anybody that I wanted to be. So starting very early on, my homeboys, and I remember very early, there would be AA, and this wasn't AAU, but there would be basketball practice. My boys would be in these real leagues where they would have to go on Saturdays and Sundays. So my parents said, okay, they're going to put that into that. You're going to school on Saturdays. So I had to literally go to school every Saturday. They found these different programs and they put me in the school. So I would go to school. The first one was college bound. We'd have to go to school every Saturday. We'd have book reports. And then in college bound, it was predominantly Black. So I went into the space with these other Black folks that were from neighborhoods like me, and we were all doing book reports and reading on Saturday. So I said, all right, well, this is pretty normal. Then they advocated for me to be gifted and talented. So early on in school, I was routed as gifted and talented. So the school recognized me as that. So now it was me thinking that I could be great. And now the school is also routing me in that. And I think you can get into that by being tested. So that was the first thing. They tested me. I was routed, gifted, and talented. And then beyond that, they took me out of the predominantly Black environments and started putting me in programs with all of the different types of students. And the expectation was still verbally, our expectation is that you're the best. So what I did in those, and I remember distinctly, I remember the first assignments when I looked around and I said, oh, shucks, I'm just as smart as, if not smarter than these folks too. And I'll tell you, the reason why I say this guy was built, it was because it was after all of those experiences, consistent. And to be clear, failure is a part of it. Failure is a very, very important part of the journey. But guess what Bandura said was self-efficacy. The person that has what Wayne has, that gets knocked out and is on his back, guess what you're thinking on your back? Oh, well, the next time I get up, when I bob to the left, I'm going to miss that right hook. Next time you get knocked down, guess what? You're going to get, Muhammad Ali said, the greatest champion is not the person that doesn't get knocked down. It's the person that gets up the 9th time, right? You got to be able to get up and keep getting up. And so for me, what would I tell that mother? I would say, seek out the experiences. They are there. Seek out the experiences that are going to solidify in this young man's head. You can't tell him enough. Unfortunately, you can't tell him enough. It starts with telling them. What me and my kids do, for all the parents right now, if you got young kids, Snoop Dogg is a genius. He has a children's production company called Doggyland, where they have all of these children's nursery rhymes made for Black kids, right? And so one of them is affirmation song. We do affirmations every day. That was natural and normal to me, but I don't know that every young Black boy is doing affirmations every day. If you're not doing affirmations, Doggyland got it for you. Turn on Doggyland affirmation song, and every day before your son go to school, make sure you get up and do affirmations with your son. Step one, start instilling that from day one. Then seek out experiences that are going to allow them to try, succeed, and also try and fail. And then when they fail, your task is to make sure that they understand that as simply a part of the process. Keep giving them experiences that show them, instead of just telling them, show them that they can be great. And then after that, what you've got to do, and this is the last thing, and I didn't touch much on this, but I believe as Black people, we are victims of low expectations. What everybody talked about on this phone is being the benefactor of high expectations. So what can that mom do? The first thing you can do is that in your household, excellence is the norm. Me and Wayne have the same thing. Y'all talking about 89s. I couldn't bring home no 93, where the rest of them at, man. You supposed to be the best in the class. I expect the best from you. You had some more to give. Now that I understand psychology a little bit more and childhood trauma and those things, you may want to let me say this, and I say this very seriously. It is also very important, and this may actually be foundational, to ensure that the young man is able to better understand how he shows up in this world, the mind. What are they thinking and how are they receiving themselves in this world? For me, I know therapy is not something that's very popular in the Black community. It's not very popular in the church community, right? There not be a lot of people hooping and hollering when I say therapy, but I absolutely, without a doubt, as a matter of fact, I would say that every Black man deserves therapy. Every Black man deserves therapy. So, Mom, what would I do? I would get that young man some therapy. And as young as he is, I would get him some therapy. I would set the expectations through the roof. I would get him in experiences to solidify those expectations, and then go watch you build you a Lil Wayne. Right? They coming.
Y'all can hit me up. I'm open. I'm taking clients.
Yeah. Real good. Real good.
Well, I just want to make sure I got this, though. Dr. Abby. So I know you said excellence is the norm. Affirmations, get therapy. What was some other? I'm writing up all the points down.
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, you want to, if you zoom out, right? If you zoom out, you want to figure out how can I create this sense of belief to combat the belief gap. We know that when you send your child to school, even if you're sending them to that all-Black school, the belief gap exists for most of us. And so your task is to infuse them with so much belief on the front end that it overcomes that belief gap, and this is who they believe they should be and not this. So in order to do that, you have to set up the experience to do that. It starts with you speaking that life into them. When they're in the womb, I used to speak life into my boys when they were in my wife's womb. When they came out of the womb, everything all around, all the images around their house are of success. Everything, I don't let them listen to music that doesn't speak of success. We have an affirmation playlist in the morning. There are 40 songs on our affirmation playlist. We cycle through those songs every time we're in the car. We're not listening to I was gonna say Two Live Crew. Two Live Crew ain't even out no more. But we know
Two Chains.
City Girls not getting played in the car. I don't want no City Girls around my boys right now. Remove City Girls from your boys. So what can you do? Remove a lot of popular culture. And I'll say this, and this is going to be controversial. A lot of popular culture is not set up for your young boys to succeed. My young boy came back from the Spider-Man movie and was talking about bombs. And again, when you're living in when you're living in Brownsville, when you're living in Inglewood, and you're receiving all of these violent images, right? That is also permeating your experience in this world. And so what I would advocate is that frequently you're going to have to pull your child outside of the world around them. All of my kids want to see Spider-Man. Spider-Man say +7. My children are 3 and 5. So I'm sorry, son. All of your friends can go see Spider-Man, but you can't. I think we've got to protect our children as much as we can from all of these aspects that can destroy them around them. And we know for a Black male, you're already going to be seen as hyper active. You're already going to be seen as aggressive. You're already going to be seen as those things in the classroom. And yes, you have the right to be who you are naturally. But what I want to attribute you, what I want to acculturate you with is everything to be successful in this space. And sometimes we got to remove them from the world around us. So what I would say is be thoughtful in the messages that they receive. Start with affirmations. Start with positive messages, but do everything you can to remove those negative messages around them. A lot of it, I'm a hip hop head. I'm steeped in hip hop. A lot of it will never touch my boys until they say I want it. I don't want it nowhere around my boys. A lot of that stuff don't belong in their spirit. It don't belong in them. And I'm a big advocate of it. A lot of the stuff on the TV, do not inundate them with this stuff right now. Allow them to be children and allow them to grow as children. Shower them with nourishment. It's like treat them like a seed. As a matter of fact, this is the last thing I'll say. I know I'm being long-winded. The Chinese bamboo. Treat them like the Chinese bamboo. The Chinese bamboo is a plant that grows down for years. You plant the seed and it sprouts this very complex system of roots for years and years and years before it grows up. But guess what? That entire time, you must nourish those roots. So you can't see the tree. You can't see the fruit of your labor until way down the road. But every day you must nourish those roots because it's growing deep before it grows up. Your task is every day to nourish those roots, to provide them with so much belief, to provide them with so much support, to provide them with so much love that it overpowers these negative messages that are in front of them. That starts with affirmation. That starts with telling them that they can be. That starts with picking them up. That also starts with letting them be down sometime when they fall down and being a parent and figuring out when do I let them get up on their own. It's a complex job as a parent. So I don't have an easy one-liner, but your task is will nourish that Chinese bamboo. You won't get a chance to see Wayne. We can see Wayne. Look, he's sprouting now. We know Wayne gonna take over the world. You're not gonna be able to see that for a long time. But your task right now, nourish them with affirmations. Remove all of those negative things that could penetrate that soil and treat them like that precious Chinese bamboo. The shoot is coming. It's coming. And when it does, it's going to be beautiful for the world to see for years and years. And guess what? That's going to nourish the next generation, because if you don't nourish that Chinese bamboo, we're going to have a cycle, and we see it happening all around us. That's going to repeat itself. It's your task right now to do everything you can to make sure that your image of success combats that image of negativity that we know exists out there.
Solid.
Excellent.
Appreciate that. That hit it. Did that cover it?
Oh yeah. I got excellence is the norm. Affirmations, get therapy, belief on the front end, speak life into your kids. All about success. Remove all negativity. Shower them with nourishment. The Chinese bamboo. Let them fail to learn to learn how to learn. You know. So I got all that. Oh, I know what I'm preaching. Now.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And everything on that list that works for boys as well as for the girls. So we don't want to leave the girls out. Awesome. There's so much here. We definitely got to bring these.
Oh, we got here Wayne. We got here Wayne.
Okay. Go ahead.
Single mom. She's her kids. No dad in the home. The school environment. Is nobody really uplifting the kids in the school environment? What would you tell that single mom?
I would say one thing that's like a recurring theme, like as we're all talking, is like the nature of sacrifice. Like unconsciously, children appreciate sacrifice and they can recognize sacrifice when parents are making it. I feel like for me, there was a point in time where my mom got laid off, during a recession. Mom got laid off, and my mom didn't have a job, and it's actually when she went back to school. So it's it's so crazy. But I didn't know it at the time, but we didn't have any money. It was crazy. But she always made sure to spend time with me. Time is the greatest luxury for me. I think we talk about children. Time is the greatest luxury. So you spend quality time with your children, and then also the quality time is what is it called? You're also recreating this idea of intellectual exploration. So in New York City, for example, there are so many free museums you can go to where you can put in any donation. My mom used to take me to museums for free because we really couldn't afford it. So she used to have to give in $1 donation or however much she could afford at the time. And we would go in and we talk, have conversations about what was going on at school. We're looking at the exhibits, and that enforces this idea of critical thinking, which I think even if the kid doesn't pursue academia, that's important. These are reference points you can use to do anything.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So I think and that just requires sacrifice. And also don't parentify the children as much as you possibly can. Don't parentify the children. Children are children. Not supposed to be adults. I think sometimes I think a lot of people grow up having the monumentous responsibility of taking care of their sibling in a way where it's not natural, where it's you're all they're almost the second dad or the second mom, or dad or the mom or whatever, and they're not equipped emotionally to handle that. So you have to be careful with parentifying the children. You have to be able to allow them to grow on their own without the responsibility of doing anything that's your responsibility to do. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the sacrifice. They'll appreciate you more for it when you actually do that. So I think it's just that's what I would say. Don't parentify the kids, and give them experiences. There's New York City, for example. I know in other states it's a little different, but in New York there's so many opportunities. One thing I hate to hear is people may not have money or what the case may be, but they've never left Brooklyn. Come on, bro. You have to showcase these experiences, and you have to make it so that the world seems accessible to the kid, to the children. You can't be I'm bolted to these specific societal experiences in Brooklyn or in the Bronx or in Queens. Like there's a whole world out there, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's how you reinforce their imagination, by showing them that the world's expansive.
Mm-hmm.
It's constantly growing, and you can be
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're constantly growing. You can dream.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I
Mm-hmm.
I
think
like
like
that.
you want to reinforce their dreams is like that's like the most important thing, to reinforce their dreams. Like reinforce
Spot on.
I like
good.
that.
That
I
was
like
worth the extra 3 minutes, Wayne. That was solid. That was solid.
nature. So that's what I heard. This
To
the
spend
nature
time.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know, time spend QT quality time with your children. You know, there's the old saying, you spell love, TIME. You know, when it comes to kids, and then critical thinking. You know, help the kids. You know, teach them critical thinking. Let children be children. Throw over parental fire. May I say that wrong? Your kids, give them experiences, and the world is way bigger than the neighborhood. You know, and when you said that, that touched me, because I knew I grew up with some people who were in high school, and they said they never been out of Brooklyn. You know, so wow.
Yeah, awesome.
One word. I was gonna say one word that Wayne is saying without saying it that I would completely piggyback on, that I think is foundational: exposure. Exposure. How can you dream? You can't touch what you can't see, right? And so Wayne talked about exposure. I love the concept of, you ain't got no money, it's all good. We got some free museums for you. And you want some QT time? Come do it over here. Come talk to me over here while we got this artwork in the background. Let's seep in some of this. I love it. I love it.
Preacher, put that back up there.
Yeah, that was your mom.
Yeah, since we're talking about mothers, moms is obviously watching this, and she she put this in here, Wayne. Informational, inspiring, educational, caring for our community, very powerful. Continue these well-needed conversations. So that's just a little hint that the folk that are watching have really been blessed, have really been edified by this conversation. Everybody in the chat, come on, let's just clap it up for Howard's finest, HU's finest here. Excellent conversation that we've had, Dr. Calvin Hadley and Wayne Scully dropping.
We went over just a little bit.
Yeah, what's that? Yeah.
We
That's okay.
We went over just a little bit.
It was well worth it. I think everybody got their money's worth off of it. We definitely got to bring the both of you again, you know, to talk some more on this and perhaps some other matters. You guys have got some wonderful insights that I believe that are going to be helpful for other people who are trying to figure it out and trying to navigate how to get to the next place. But again, thank you guys for coming. Thank you for sharing your perspectives, your knowledge with us today on Color Conversations. And we want to thank everybody here that joined us today. Thank you for joining us for this very insightful conversation on race, on the crisis of Black men in education. Stay tuned for more of these. This is the month of June, so we want to make sure that we're talking about the brothers. We're talking about men, Father's Day, but we are not leaving our women out. So we're going to have another conversation. We're going to bring on a bunch of our excellent sisters as panelists that will talk on the other side and talking about some of the challenges and experiences of Black women in education as well. So, Preacher, is there anything else before we close out?
No, I think you covered it all, man. Thank you guys again. Thank you, Dr. Hadley. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. You know, just thank y'all for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, everybody, thank you for joining us for another edition of Colored Conversations. If you enjoyed this, like, share, subscribe, send this around. This is going to bless somebody. This definitely be impactful for someone. What I want to do, let's just close out, Pastor, with a word of prayer. Let's pray.
Go for it.
Father in heaven, we want to thank you, God, for what you are able to do despite the challenges, despite a world that has been built against so many of us. We know that you have still given us power and still us with the agency, the ability to push back and to be who you have created and called us to be. We thank you for everyone who is tuned in, and we're praying for our nation. We're praying for our community. Help us and help our people, Lord, to push back, to develop that confidence and that belief, to know that with you in us and with you behind us, you can push us through all of what has been set up against us. We thank you again, Lord, for this time. We thank you for this conversation and the ones that will have to come. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. God bless everyone.
All right, everybody have a good day.
God bless.